In the past year, I have been in rooms just like this, surrounded by business owners, and especially business women who have shared their phenomenal stories of success, building empires, and lessons learned. And every time, a little part of me would feel less than. Because a little voice in my head would whisper, you don't have a degree. You don't have a master's. You haven't traveled the world. But then another voice, quieter, kinder, would reply, yes, but look at everything you do have. In 2007, I was married in what you will consider a Celtic Tiger style wedding to the father of my 3 children. 4 short months later, a catastrophic and life-altering event divided our family, and my marriage ended abruptly. And it wasn't infidelity or falling out. It was something far more painful, involving the safety and the trust within our family. Suddenly, I was a single mom to 3 children. I had no job. I had no spousal support. I had no assets, no maintenance. And within a few months, due to pressure from my ex-husband, we had to leave our family home. I rented a small house. I put my head down and I saved my children's allowance. And I put myself through makeup school. And within a few weeks of finishing my course, I was very lucky to land my dream job with MAC Cosmetics in Galway. It wasn't glamorous, but it was something. Retail, bills, scraping by, but also some miracles. We even made it to Disneyland once. Bear with me now, I'm just going to drink some water. At one point, I set up a stall at the Galway market, sell my clothes and belongings, just so we could cover a bill or afford a treat on a Sunday. Now, not exactly empire building strategy, but it did pay the electricity bill and we got a slice of pizza in Milano's. They were hard days, but there was also good ones. And I truly thought the hardest days are behind us. But unfortunately, darker days lay ahead. My eldest daughter, focused, reliable, she carried herself through all the chaos. But my younger two, they suffered deeply. The fallout of our family breakdown brought anger, anxiety, depression, drug and alcohol abuse, school refusal, guards at the door. Our home became a battlefield of pain. And yet, even in those moments, I knew what I could see was their pain, not their essence. I searched for help, social workers, parenting courses, anything that would steady us. Eventually, I found myself sitting opposite a psychologist, pleading with her, please, can you help my daughter? And she looked at me and she listened. And she said, no, darling, you need the help. That was the beginning of me learning that in order to guide them through this storm, I needed to first steady myself. And in one of those early sessions, we talked about ancestral trauma. And she said something to me that I've never forgotten. She said, you need to be a beacon of light for your children. And I knew then that it wasn't my role to fix them, but to lead them home to themselves by example. Sorry, we skipped one. Then COVID hit. And while the world shut down, something in me opened. For the first time in years, the constant pressure stopped. My daughter, who had been refusing to go to school, suddenly didn't have to. I didn't have to rush out to work. And for both of us, it was the first breath of relief in such a long time. And I remember thinking, this is a gift from the universe, a gift of time. Maybe it's a chance to stop struggling and start healing. And I was determined, we are going to come out of this better than the way we went in. My eldest daughter, who was living in London, came home during the lockdown. And that really was the start of our healing, a chance to be together again without all the chaos. Around that time, during one of those lockdown clear-outs, I stumbled across a book that a friend had gifted to me many years before. The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. Jot that one down. I sat in my back garden. The sun was beating down. Glass of wine in my hand, and I began reading. Something almost instantly shifted within me. I knew that I wanted to make changes in my life. And the first decision I made was almost there and then. I want to live alcohol-free. Because I need clarity if I'm going to be this steady presence that my children need. I wanted to create structure, to get up earlier, to eat better, move more. So one of the second choices that I made was to start my mornings differently. I would leave my clothes outside my bedroom door and I would set my alarm for 5 a.m. And in the morning, when it would go off, I would use a Mel Robbins trick. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I would rocket myself out of bed. I walked. I breathed. And slowly, my energy started to return. And it wasn't difficult because I had the space to do it. And I knew that that was me becoming that beacon of light that I'd promised to be. Not perfect, just present. And every act of self-care was a message to my children. This is what healing looks like. This is what hope feels like. Then something beautiful began to happen, like the turning of the tide. It was gradually, subtle, almost invisible. My youngest daughter changed schools after lockdown and started at Youthreach in Galway. And for the first time in years, she began to find her footing again. My eldest daughter changed jobs, and that decision led her to earn her degree. And my son, well, life gave him a choice. He had to work, support himself, and it wasn't easy. But that job and that structure, it gave him purpose and it kept him out of trouble. We teetered along like that for a few years. holding steady. And then this year, 2025, everything seemed to come full circle. It began with me joining Network Galway. And I truly believe that's when things began to align again. My eldest daughter graduated. My son moved to London. He's working and studying, and he's truly happy, thriving even. And my youngest daughter, who's here tonight, is studying art and design in GTI in Galway. And after her first week, she came home and said to me, "Mum, it's like I'm using a different part of my brain in a good way." And that line said everything. They say when you create a vision board or set an intention, it can take 5 years for it to come to life. When I look back, I can see that our healing began in 2020. And here we are in 2025, emerging as entirely different people. That's what the turning of the tide really looked like. When I hear women talking about building empires, scaling businesses, expanding teams, taking over industries, I cheer for them. I really do. But sometimes I sit there quietly and I think, I don't have an empire. And then I picture my children, their faces, their laughter, their courage. And I think, oh, I was building the empire. I just didn't know it. Because it doesn't show up on a balance sheet. It shows up in who they've become. The resilience, the kindness, the humor that grew from all of those messy, hard years. That's the kind of empire you build when you decide to keep showing up, even when no one claps for you. The theme of this event is breaking barriers. And for me, those barriers aren't glass ceilings. They are the invisible walls of comparison and guilt. The idea that success has to look impressive to count. That you're only worth being listened to if you've made $1 million or traveled the world. The truth is, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to choose a life that's smaller on the outside and richer on the inside. To stop performing and start being. Having turned 50 this year, I realised that a huge chapter, motherhood, survival, proving myself, has come to a close. And what's next? I don't fully know. But I do know this. When I wake calm, grateful, grounded, when I work with a woman and help her see her own beauty, when I stand with the family as a celebrant and honour a life well lived, or celebrate the happy union of a couple, those are the days that feel successful. The quiet life isn't about giving up ambition. It's about finally knowing what's worth being ambitious for. So yes, I have sat in those rooms and I felt small. But when I look at my life, at the humans I've created and raised, at the peace that I have found, at the faith in my life, I see the empire. It just looks different. And maybe success isn't always a roar. Maybe it's just a whisper, the sound of a woman who kept her light burning so others could find their way home. That's the power of a quiet life.